Handicapper Steve here, handicapping the racing from Royal Ascot here on the final day of the Royal Meeting. It is Saturday, the 24th of June 2023. Gonna look at all the races here on today's program from Ascot, but before I get on to that, remember to please follow me on Twitter at Horse Racing Kid 5 for more selections for race courses around the world, and I mean it, around the world. We have quite a few races to look at, all seven. Starting off with the first race, the 230, which is the Chesham Stakes. It's going for a purse of $120,000, race for 2-year-olds here. We have a field of 17 horses going 1,400 meters or 7 furlongs on the turf course. I'm going to take as a top selection here the number 16 horse, the 16 who is, if my page could load, all week this iPad's been acting up, the 16 horse Pearls and Rubies. Let's go 16-13 in your forecast exacta. 16-13 forecast exacta, that's my top two basically, but my top selection is the 16 horse Pearls and Rubies, True Philly by No Nay Never. Aidan O'Brien trains one, Ryan Moore gets the mount. The horse's most recent out came in a maiden race at Navan on the 17th of June, which was this past Saturday, over the 5 furlongs, and the horse won by a neck that day. And he settled well towards mid-pack. He slowly moved his way up. When he had the turn of foot, I thought the trip was just a little bit too short, but she went away with it. An all-around good run. Facing the boys today, she should get a good forwardly paced trip, and I think she could, with the quick turnaround, win this race. Ryan Moore and Aidan O'Brien have a good record in this race. Coming here, with the No Nay Never, should definitely stay the 7 furlong trip, probably even stay a mile in the future. I'm going to give this horse a shot at 7-2 on the ticket. I think his second likeliest winner here is a 13 horse, who is La Guardia, and one of my, I cannot stand, with me being an American, and a New Yorker in general, I am a New Yorker. One of the worst airports I've ever been to, it's my local airport, LaGuardia. It's not an international airport, what I know of, but if you're in America, just never, and in New York City, please never fly out of LaGuardia. It's just horrible. But it's one of my favorite Donald Trump quotes. Didn't vote for him, by the way, but the Battle of LaGuardia, where they had the airplanes and stuff from like 2019. That's that's one of my favorite quotes that a world leader ever said. But I'm getting off subject. Back to the 13 horse LaGuardia, 3-year Philly by New Bay. Richard Hannon trains. Kevin Stock gets the mount. Horse's most recent out came a Goodwood 27th of May, 6 furlongs in a main race, and the horse won by 2 1/4 lengths that day from a tracking trip. When he got to the front and he took off clear, very good run. Keep in mind, he horses that love Goodwood and really run next start out. He's a horse I would keep an eye on as she goes to the glorious Goodwood meeting, possibly in 4 weeks time or 5 weeks time now. But she put on a show second outing. First outing 7 days prior, Newmarket on the Rolling Mile, 6 furlongs in a novice race. She finished third by 2 lengths that day, and she just couldn't get there late. She kind of hit the wall. She needed the race for experience, a little green. It wasn't her day to win, but coming back here, off the bench, back to a 7 furlong trip, drawn on the stand side. She has some forwardly pace. It wouldn't surprise me. I'll use her on the ticket. But to recap my selection for the 230 first race from Royal Ascot's, the Chesham Stakes, going to take the 16 horse Pearls and Rubies. Give kudos to the 13 horse LaGuardia. 16-13 forecast exact. Using both in the place pot. The second race, the 305, it is the Group 3 Jersey Stakes. It's a Group 3 event going for $180,000 purse, race for 3-year-olds here. Field of 15 horses going 1,400 meters or 7 furlongs on the turf course. I'm going to take as a top selection here the number 5 horse, the 5 horse Covey. I'm going to go 5-1 in your forecast exacta. 5-1 forecast exacta. Top selection, the 5 horse Covey. 3-year-old colt by Frankel here. John Gosden trains. Frankie Dettori gets on this one for Juddmonte. Frankie riding in his final fixture at Royal Ascot. They say, I've been saying this since last December, since he started riding at Santa Anita. He's not retiring, especially the way the season's going on. I could just see him, I'm going to cut down next year, but I'm still going to ride. So, he'll just ride the big races and not those random fixtures at Kempton on like a Wednesday evening. I could see that happening, but, just the way he's going, cannot see him retiring. But most recently, Covey ran on the 27th of May, Haydock, 1 mile firm ground, and the Silver Bowl handicap, and the horse was by 3 1/4 lengths that day, and he got into a good gallop on the front end early on. When he quickened up, he kept going, an all-around easy run, stepping up in class. He's coming here with fast ground. He's stepping up to Group 3 quality horses, which shouldn't be bad. It's not the world's toughest Group 3. I think, I think he could gallop out, and I think he could stay the trip well. His pedigree is through and through is for 7 furlongs, even to a mile, but I think 7 is what he wants to go. Two back, he ran the 2nd of May, Newcastle, 7 furlongs in a novice race, and he won by 4 3/4 lengths. Very overbet at 5 cents to the dollar, but again, he just travels so smoothly, and when he got to the front end, he just basically waltzed home. A very easy run, ran like a 5 cents to the dollar horse should run, and then at 80 cents to the dollar, they're in a Craven meeting at Newmarket over the 7 on soft ground. He won by 4 that day. He didn't break that day, which probably just probably cost him more of a victor that day, but he settled well towards the back of the pack. When he slowly moved his way up and he got to the front end, he took off clear. A very good run. If he would have broke that day, he probably would have won by over a half a dozen, I think, if not 8 lengths. But a decent run there. And then on debut at Seville, 7 furlongs in a novice race, he finished second by a neck that day, and he was just kind of stuck. He just couldn't keep up late. He might need the race for the experience though, but ever since then he's been getting better and better. Coming here at 9-5, I think he's a very likely winner. The one horse Mysterious Night for William Buchan and Godolphin, first time gelding. Wouldn't surprise me if he runs a good race. He didn't run in the Craven meeting, in the Craven Stakes, the Craven meeting at Newmarket over the mile. He finished 7 by 13 3/4 lengths that day, and he just never, showed up. He ran terrifically in Canada in the Summer Stakes over the mile. Woodbine won by 5 1/4 lengths after not breaking so well on a little bit of a wide trip. He really put on a show that day, and then he went in the Prix-Francis Bottine at Deauville over the 7 on soft ground last year quite nicely. Coming here today, it wouldn't surprise me, first time gelding out, 8-1, I'll use him on the ticket. But to recount my selection for the second, the 305 from Royal Ascot, Group 3 Jersey Stakes, gonna take the 5-horse Covey, give kudos to the 1-horse Mystery Night, 5-1 forecast exacta, use them both in the place pot. The quad pot begins with the third race, the 340. It is the Group 1 Queen Elizabeth II Jubilee Stakes. It's a Group 1 event going for a $1.2 million purse, the highest prize money of the week. Or is it second highest? I can't remember if the Prince of Wales is slightly higher. It's been a long week. I've looked at like 40 races so far, I think. But 35 to be exact. But $1.2 million purse race for 4-year-olds and upwards here. Field of 16 horses going 1,200 meters or 6 furlongs on the turf course. A very wide open race. Out of the 16 that are running in this one, I think about 8 of them have a strong chance. I think the 15 horses is my top selection, sacred here. I'll go 15-3 in your forecast exacta, but any of these 2 horses I have in this forecast can win. The top selection of 15 horse sacred, 5 Romero by Exceed and Excel, William Haggis trains, Tom Marquand gets the mount. Horse's most recent outing, first start of the season, 13th of May at Lingfield on the Poly track, 7 furlongs in the Group 3 Chartwell Stakes. She won by 2 1/4 lengths that day and completely missed a break that day. She didn't break so well. She sat back early, but the turn of foot she had in the middle of the track really, put wonders in your eye. It was a very good, strong performance late. Coming here, stepping up in class, back to Ascot, I think she could get a good trip and win. 2 back in Newmarket in the Group 2 Challenge Stakes, 7 furlongs, 7th of October. She finished second by 1/4 lengths that day, and she sat back early. A little bit of a turn of foot late. She needs something more, but she ran her heart out that day. And then the Dubai Duty Free Cup Stakes at Newbury, 7 furlongs, 16th September. The horse went by 6.5 lengths that day. She sat back early. She had the turn of foot. She won quite easily, and then she faced the boys in the City of York Stakes over the 7 at York. It was a Group 2, but it's going to be a Group 1 at one of these seasons if not this year. It's the 7-2 lukewarm favorite. Kinross put on a show. This horse was just on the drive and not really excelling that day. Her races last summer, she peaked with that Platinum Jubilee race where she finished 5th, where I thought she ran terrifically even in defeat. Came back to run as a very bet over favorite in the Atlantic Stakes where she finished 5th, and then horribly in the City of York. But I think this season she has a run under her belt so far, which I think is good for her. Back to 7. I'll give her a shot at 8-1. I think her second likeliest winner here is the 3 horse who is Art Power for Ocean Murphy. Most recently in the Group 2 Greenland Stakes at the Cur over the 6th. The horseman by 4 3/4 lengths and had the forwardly paced to win that day. He took off clear late. Major improvement off the race before, which was the Group 2 Duke of York Clipper Stakes over the 6 at York. He finished 8th by 8 1/4 lengths that day and completely hit the wall in the front end. He just couldn't keep up there. And then on Boxing Day at Wolverhampton over the 6 in a novice conditions race, he finished 6 by 3 lengths that day. He just kind of stalked and then completely hit the wall. He likes running on the grass. The races in late last year where he was running on the synthetic, he wasn't really showing a lot. But coming here off some decent turf runs, I'll give him a shot on the ticket. A horse I don't have on the ticket, but I have a horse I love running here in the States. It's a 4-horse Big Invasion. If he wins, I'll be so happy, but I won't have any money on him. He's making a 2-week turnaround from the Jaipur where he ran at Belmont, where he ran a massive second-place finish, and then he ran horribly in the turf sprint at Churchill, where he completely got bumped and almost fell down around the far turn. Can he win? Possibly, but the 2 week turnaround is just something very adventurous here. But he's a horse I love. I would bet him next start out Saratoga, but I do think the other two are, and quite a few other horses are a lot classier than him. But stranger things have happened. But I'm going to take Sacred here. But to recap my selection for the third, the 340 from Royal Ascot's to Group 1, Queen Elizabeth Jubilee Stakes. Going to take the 15-horse Sacred. Give kudos to the 3-horse Art Power. 15-3 forecast Exacta. Use them both in your place pot. Let's get to the fourth race as my legs are falling asleep here. The fourth race, the 420 from Ascot. It is the Group 2 Hardwicke Stakes. It's a Group 2 event going for a $300,000 purse race for 4-year-olds and upwards. We have a field of 8 horses going the distance of ground of 2,400 meters or a mile and a half on the turf course. My top selection, I'm going to go with the number 5 horse Hakum. I'm going to go 5-3-8 in your TriCast trifecta. 5-3-8 TriCast trifecta. Top selection of 5 horse Hakum, 6-year-old horse by See the Stars. Owen Burr is trained. Jim Crowley gets the mount. The horse's most recent out came 25th of May at Sandown. Lost my train of thought for a second. Mile and a quarter in the Group 3 Brazier Stakes, and the horse won by half a length that day. From a tracking trip, he had a little bit of trouble trip, but he beat Desert Crown home late. He had the good turn of foot, and he won quite nicely. A very good run in the 6-year-old debut. Back to a mile and a half, which he should like through and through. Back to Ascot, where he ran very well in the past. I think he's sitting on a very good run. 2 back, he ran in the Coronation Cup of 2022 at Epsom. Over the mile and a half, he won by 4.5 lengths. He beat home Pile Driver, who was a next star winner running back in this one today, and he just sat back early. He slowly moved his way out, and when he had the turn of foot, it was explosive. That was a very good run for him that day. First start back from Dubai. He ran the Shihima Classic before that over the mile and a half, where he finished 7 by 5.25 lengths, and he never really did running that day. He ran well in the Dubai City of Gold, the local prep race for the Shihima Classic, where he won. He had to be used a lot that day, but he took on a good group of horses home that day. And then his most recent race here at Ascot in the fall of 2021, a mile and a half in the Group 3 Cumberland Lodge, winning by 6.5 lengths that day, and from a tracking trip, a very easy run that day. He ran the Hardwicke 2 seasons ago, where he finished third by 3 lengths. Wonderful Tonight and Broom were all next out winners along with this one. He just kind of stalked. He had the lead. He got caught late, but he didn't go down without a fight. He had a very game performance. Came back 3 weeks later to win the Silver Cup at York over the mile 3/4 staying, and then he had a decent place behind in the September Stakes after that behind Hamish, but coming here at 8-5, he's a very likely winner. I'll use him on the ticket. The horse that might need the race is the 3-horse Deauville Legend. I also think he wants a little bit longer. Most recently in the Melbourne Cup, he ran a very good 4th place finish that day. He just couldn't stay the trip well late, but he ran his heart out there. Prior to that, in the Great Voltaire at York over the mile and a half, he won by 2.25 lengths, and again, from a tracking trip, he really ran a terrific race there. And then the Gordon Stakes over the mile and a half, he finished second by 1.25 lengths that day, and he just was a little bit flat. I think the quick turnaround for the previous race got to him. He stayed well in the Bahrain Trophy prior to that, and then a decent place in last year's King George. Another horse, he might need the race here, might need a little longer, but I think he has a strong future ahead of him in the staying division. If you could get future wagering for next year's Ascot Gold Cup, he's a horse I would back there because he could definitely win. But and also talking about the mare, the 8-horse Free Wind, ran terrifically in the Middleton Stakes, winning by a half a length at York, and then won the Lancashire Oaks last summer at Haydock quite nicely also. Another horse, it wouldn't surprise me taking on the boys if she gets a good trip and wins. I'll use her in the place, or the Quan Pond here in this very wide open co-feature. But to recap my selection for the 420, the 4th race from Royal Ascot, it's the Group 2 Hardwicke Stakes. Gonna take the 5-horse Hakum, give kudos to the 3-horse Deauville Legend and the 8-horse Free Wind. Where are we? 5-3-8 TriCast trifecta. Use all 3 of them in your multi-race. Now the 5th race, the 5 o'clock. Like I said, the Jersey Stakes is very wide open this year. This race probably is your along with the Jersey Stakes, your most wide open race, because you could go 10 million ways in this one. There's 28 horses entered, and about 20 of them can win. But the 5 o'clock, the 5th race from Royal Ascot's the Wokingham Handicap. It's a Class 2 handicap going for a $210,000 purse race for 3-year-olds and upwards. 20 or 30 horses entered, only 28 could go. 1,200 meters or 6 furlongs on the turf course. My top selection here, I'm going to go with the number 18 horse. The number 18 horse, who is, if I could get my page loaded, and get to the right page here, the 18 horse Kanjar. 18 7 in your forecast exacta. 18-7 forecast exacta. Top selection 18 horse Canjar. This 4-year-old gelding by Kodiak. William Haggis trains. Jim Crowley gets the mount. The horse's most recent outing came up in Scotland and Hamilton. 6 furlongs in a handicap class 2 event, and he finished second by a length that day, and he completely missed a break that day, but he settled well towards the back of the pack. He really quickened up late. He just missed, but he ran his heart out that day. Nothing bad about that race in defeat. He is stepping up a major class here today, but his previous race here at Ascot as a 2-year-old wasn't bad at all. I'll give him a quick, I'll give him a good chance on the ticket with the quick turnaround. 17th of May was his previous race at Yorkshire. 6 furlongs in a Class 2 handicap, and he finished 12th by 4.5 lengths that day. And he sat back early, and he just didn't have the turn of foot. He beat 12 horses home, but when you're running against 22 other horses, or 12 other horses, it's nothing really to call home about. Probably needed the race that day. And then the Hardwicke Stakes at Redcar over the 7 on soft ground last fall. He finished 8th by 13 lengths and never really showed up. And then the Ayr Gold Cup over the 6 at Ayr, he finished 20th by 8.5 lengths. Again, never really showing up. He doesn't have a lot of forwardly pace, but when he needs a strong pace, which we'll probably see in this one today, if he runs a race like he ran here as a 2-year-old over the 6th on the 3rd of September of 2021, he could definitely win. He was all out under the drive, excelling that day. And even if he runs a race like the Tin Man Handicap where he ran a Haydock last year over the 6th, if he runs that race and he can win here, 8-1, I'll give him a shot on the ticket. I think his second likeliest winner here is a 7 horse, who is, if we could get to the right page here, the number 7 horse, who is, where are we? I'm telling you, this iPad, if you've been watching me all week here on YouTube, first things first, congratulations. Secondly, you've been knowing my iPad is about to explode and self-destruct because it's only 12 years old, and just absolutely sucks now. That's my goal for 2022, 2023. To get a new iPad. I've been saying that all year, but the problem is I just don't want to sit with the lines at the Apple Store in the city. I just cannot stand it. It's just I hate lines. But the 7 horse Summer Hand is my second selection here. 9-year-old gelding by Lupe de Vega, so he's been around the block. David O'Meara trains. Adam Kirby gets the mount. Most recently in a Class 2 handicap at York over the 6, he finished 14th by 4.5 lengths that day, and he just kind of sat back early. He moved a little bit, then kind of hit the wall again. It wasn't the day to win. Prior to that, in a Class 2 handicap at Newmarket over the 6 on Guineas weekend, he finished 10th by 5.25 lengths that day. He didn't break, which cost him. And then in the all-weather championship at Newcastle over the 6, he finished 7 by 2.25 lengths that day. And again, he just couldn't get the good turn of foot. His last victory in the Golden Rose Stakes at Lingfield was quite nicely done. Win by a half length, closing up from nowhere. A very good run. And then he had a decent place in the Benno Stakes here last fall. He is up there in class. Maybe his good days are behind him, but if he runs races like he ran late last summer, he could definitely win. He is the kind of horse that if you go through his form, you'll see the pattern of him really peaking towards the end of the season. 15-1, I'll give him a shot here, but I do think the other one's a better, a likelier winner. But he's a workhorse. He's making his 79th start today. He has 16 victories to his name, and has made just over $500,000, which is appalling considered to the prize money we have here in the States. If he ran that many times here in the States, he would be a multi-millionaire. But they have to do something about the prize money in the UK, because it's just you have the best horses in the world there, and the prize money is just crap. If you just look at the races here in New York that we have, I would open up the racing form right now, but you have races on an average going for $100,000 purse, first condition allowance races, novice races. So it's just, it's appalling, the prize money. But that's for another day. But to recap my selection for the 5th, the 5 o'clock for more Ascot's to Wokingham handicap, gonna take the number 18 horse Canjar as a top selection. Give kudos to the 7 horse Summer Hand. 18-7 forecast exacta, using both in the quad pod. The 6th race, the 5:35 now from Ascot. It is the Golden Gates handicap. It's a Class 2 handicap going for $120,000 purse. Race for 3-year-olds here. Horses rated 0 to 105. Field of 16 horses going 2,000 meters or mile and a quarter on the turf course. I'm going to take as a top selection here the number 6 horse Canute. I'm going to go 6-13 in your forecast exacta. 6-13 forecast exacta. Top selection 6 horse Canute. This 3-year-old called by Quality Road. Aaron O'Brien trains. Ryan Moore gets on this one. And before I go any further, if there's going to be a Ryan O'Brien Coolmore horse that's possible for the Breeders' Cup Classic, it's this one. I think he's bred for dirt through and through. But we'll have to wait and see as the season goes on. Maybe I would send him to the States next time out to see what they can do for a Breeders' Cup Classic dirt prep race. Something like the Aaron O'Brien's not afraid to ship horses on quick turnarounds to the States. States. He's probably sending horses to the Belmont Derby in 2 weeks' time, so maybe send this horse for like the Suburban Handicap. We'll have to wait and see. But Canute most recently ran 2 weeks ago at Navan, a mile and a quarter in a class in a premier handicap, and he won by 1 1/4 lengths. Even with the high weight, he settled well towards mid-pack, and when he got to the front end, he took off clear. That was a nice, easy run for him that day, getting some class relief. Prior to that, over a short trip, which he just wasn't adoring at the Curragh in a Class 2 handicap, he finished fourth by 2 lengths that day. He never settled well, and I just think this trip was too short. He wants to go a little longer, and then the main race at Cork over the mile and a quarter, he finished third by 2 3/4 lengths that day. Just a little bit slow that day, and again, he still needs something more. And then the main race at Leopardstown over the heavy ground, he finished third by 3 lengths. Again, just a little bit flat that day, but he's definitely improved with every single race this year. He's come with a quick turnaround, first time facing winners again, first time in stakes quality horses. It's a handicap, but a lot of these horses can be in a Group 3 tomorrow, I think. But coming here today at 7-2, I'll give him a shot. The 13 horse Knock Brex for Charlie Johnston and Frankie Dettori wouldn't surprise me if he gets Dettori's final Royal Ascot victor here. 3-0 colt by Ulysses. Most recently in a handicap at York over the mile and a half on the 18th of May, he finished fourth by 2 1/4 lengths that day, and he was with them early on. This kind of hit the wall late. I do think the cutback is really something he wants to get. Prior to that Class 2 novice race at Haydock over the mile 7/16, he finished second by 2 1/4 lengths. Again, he just, had a little bit of trouble trip, and also I just don't think he wants to go the mile 7/16 there. But last time he ran a mile and a quarter Pontefract in mid-April in a maiden race, he won by 2 1/4 lengths. He was on the drive excelling, a very, very good race. Cutting back to a mile and a quarter here today, I'll probably be very overbet with him being Frankie's final Royal Ascot mount, but he is a very likely winner, and it'd be kind of cool for Frankie to, they say, go out in style here at Royal Ascot. But my thoughts on Frankie's retirement. I think he's going to be going on another few seasons if he keeps it the way he's going. But we'll have to wait and see. He has 4 more months left of the season. But to recount my selection for the 5:35, the 6th race from Royal Ascot, it's the Golden Gates Handicap. Going to take the 6-horse Canute. Give kudos to the 13-horse Knock Brex. 6-13 forecast exacta. Use them both in your place pot or the quad pot to end it off. Let's get to the 6:10, the 7th race from Royal Ascot, the final of the meeting, the nightcap of Royal Ascot. It's the longest race also. It is the Queen Alexandra Stakes. It's going for a purse of $120,000, race for 4-year-olds and upwards. We have a field here of, 10 horses going the long trip of ground of 4,400 meters or 2 miles and 3/4 on the turf course. I believe it's the longest flat race of the season in the UK, if I'm pretty sure it is. But my top selection here, I'm going to go with the number 3 horse. The number 3 horse, who is Dawn Rising. 310 in your forecast exacta to end off Royal Ascot here. 310 forecast exacta. Top selection of the 3 horse, Dawn Rising. 6-year-old gelding by Galileo. Joseph O'Brien trains this one for John McManus. Ryan Moore gets the mount. The horse's most recent outing came the Group 3 Levna Stakes at Leopardstown, a mile 3/4 staying on the 19th of May, and he finished third by 2 3/4 lengths that day. I thought he was a little bit flat. He was staying well, but he needed something more. Horse, he's bred through and through for the longer trip. He's going to get it today. Step down in class. I think he could stay for ages. Prior to that, he ran the Albert Bartlett Hurdle at Cheltenham, 3 miles over the hurdle course, 17th of March, and he didn't finish the race that day. He was on the drive, just not really excelling, and just was never into it. It wasn't his day to win. He didn't finish the race there. And then prior to that, in the Layler of Naas Hurdle at Naas, 2.5 miles on the 8th of January, he finished third by 9 1/4 lengths that day. He was on the drive again, just not really excelling. Also faced tough competition over the hurdles that day. He's run over the flat. As a 2-year-old, he looked like he could be a very, decent flat horse. He placed in the Bahrain Trophy as a 2-year-old at Newmarket over the mile 5/8, where he was really staying well. He just kind of hit the wall late. But, and then, prior to that, Limerick over the mile and a half, he won by a dozen, really, really traveling decently that day. Another horse at 5-2, it wouldn't surprise me if he wins. I know he's a short price, but he's a very likely winner. I think the 10 horse here, Typewriter for Ocean Murphy, your second likeliest winner. This 4-year-old filled by Glen Eagles for Andrew Balding. Most recently, they ran the horse in the Bronte Cup at York over the mile 3/4, 27th of May, finishing fourth by 4 1/4 lengths that day. She sat back early after not the best beginning. She moved a little bit late, but I don't know if they were trying with her that day. Why use her for the, that kind of purse when they could run for this purse today? 2 back in a Class 2 handicap at York over the mile and a half. She finished fourth by length that day, and again, she moved a little bit late, but she just still needs something more. She's the kind of horse Racecourse, it takes her a little bit of time to get into races. She's getting an extra mile off the last run, which you don't hear a lot. But, at 7-1, I'll give her a shot to end off the wagers here. But to recap my selections now for the 7th from Royal Ascot, it is the Queen Alexandra Stakes. Let's take as a top selection the 3-horse Dawn Rising. Give kudos to the 10-horse Typewriter. 3-10 forecast exacta. Use them all in the multi-race exact forecast combinations, whatever you want. So with that being said, good luck to all. Remember to follow me on Twitter at HorseRacingGet5 for more selections for race courses around the world, and join me the next few weeks for some great stakes action. Next week we have the Stephen Foster Handicap from Ellis Park, which I'm going to look at, and also it's not a big race, in the calendar, but for me it's one of my favorite races. You have the Northumberland Cup or Northumberland Handicap from Newcastle next weekend. It's one of my favorite staying races. I'm going to look at that, so stick around for my preview next week for that. So good luck to all, and follow me on Twitter at HorseRacingGet5.